conservative paradigm who still don't know what's going on. But the sheeple, the people that are on the bench, never count in history. It was 3% started the Revolutionary War against the crown in this country, in the colonies. 5% that won the war. We've got more than 30% of people that are totally and completely awake. And no amount of high-tech propaganda or false flags is going to be able to sell this. We have the moral authority. If we didn't have this traitorous, globalist, banker-funded media like MSNBC and the rest of it, and CNN, we could get our country back. And when we do take America back, and when all these globalists get arrested for their sedition and their treason and their anti-American activities and tried by a jury of their peers, this country is going to flower and bloom again. We've been captured by mega banks that use us as an engine of empire worldwide and that try to divide and conquer the American people. And the fact that they've passed the NDAA, and Obama says he can secretly arrest and kill citizens, and the fact that the FBI director is saying, yeah, we can kill citizens and make them disappear in America, is really waking people up. The communist Chinese yesterday passed a law modeled on the NDAA. It was in Reuters saying, well, America secretly arrests, we're going to do it now. I mean, this is outrageous. These globalists are full of hubris, think they can get away with all this. They're not going to get away with it. So understand, the fight for liberty is happening right now, and all of you out there need to understand that this is going on. Look at this. The police are arresting people that even protest on the side of the road now. There's all sorts of different types of corruption and tyranny taking place. And here you've got the Smith and Wesson, trying to make that focus. Smith and Wesson report surging gun purchases on back of fears over Obama re-election. And then we've got the other articles in there where Obama's declaring himself basically a dictator and all the rest of it. And there's the actual article. Smith and Wesson reports surging gun purchases on the back of the fears. And it goes through all the numbers. If you just search engine record gun sales, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of articles breaking this down. Gun sales rise ahead of 2012 election. There is those reports. It's all right there. Troops used for crowd control at Texas Kite Festival. This is here in Austin, Texas, where they had troops out doing that. We're being totally acclimated for occupation. Here's police now. This is an AP photograph. Here are police. You know, somebody went postal and shot some people, and so they show up running around, you know, like they're fighting Al Qaeda, so that they're indistinguishable from the military. This is all part of the blurring. And for all these years, I warned you. For all these years, I broke down exactly what was happening. I told you they were going to get rid of posse comitatus and put troops on the street. I told you they were preparing for civil unrest and to arrest political dissidents who actually support liberty and freedom. I told you all this was coming because I was reading the documents. I was doing the research. Now it's out in the open. Now they're trying to sell it. And you know why they're trying to sell it? Because they're getting ready to use it. In every case in history, when they start openly announcing torture, secret arrest, all of this, it's because they're getting ready to use it. They want to tell their militarized police that it's okay, we passed a law. They've had laws saying black people weren't human. Doesn't make them legal or lawful. Marbury versus Madison breaks that down. Look at that ruling. And many others. I'll see you on the radio this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and back next week, of course, 11 to 2 Central. But this is the big issue. All of you better become info warriors now and realize I was right, Ron Paul was right, countless others were right. But we don't need you to tell us we were right. We need you to get fully activated and take action against this corruption, because they're getting rid of the basic freedoms so they can loot us and rob us and take all the pension funds and bring this country into a depression. That's always been the plan of Agenda 21 and the globalists. We have real criminals in control of both major parties, and they're moving quickly. We're in deep trouble, okay? All right, God bless you. I'll see you again this Sunday, 4 to 6. And this is such big news. I'm going to continue to file more reports right here at Infowars.com. God bless you.
Okay, well, now, that's the way it is, folks. It's really shocking. But, you know, is he just being a sensationalist? Well, I'm going to let you see for yourself. You can watch this actual interview of Leon Panetta by the Armed Services Committee, and they're questioning him about, well, doesn't the president really have to submit? I mean, it's Congress that makes war, not the president. So watch for yourself here. I'll start it. Here we go.
One of your criteria for determining what we might do militarily, you say you have to ask the question whether the action is worth the cost and is consistent with law. What law does the United States military look to?
Yeah, if I could, since I'd like to address both because they are related. So cost, resources, risk incurred elsewhere by the use of force one other place. So, you know, it's a zero-sum game. We take them from someplace else, we use them for how long, and that's the kind of issue of cost. Is it, and of course in blood and treasure. The issue of legal basis is important, though. You know, we act with the authorized use of military force either at the consent of a government, so we're invited in, or out of national self-defense, and it's a very, there's a very clear criteria for that. And then the last one is with some kind of international legal basis, an UNSCR.
Wait a minute. Let's talk about an international legal basis. You answer under the Constitution to the United States government, do you not? And you don't need any international support before you would carry out a military operation authorized by the commander.
No, of course not. That's the second one I mentioned.
I just want to know that because there's a lot of references in here to international matters before we make a decision. And I want to be sure that the United States military understands, and I know you do, that we're not dependent on a NATO resolution or UN resolution to execute policies consistent with the national security of the United States. Now, Secretary Panetta, you, in your talk, in your remarks, you talk about first, we're working to increase diplomatic isolation and encouraging other countries to join the European Union and Arab League in imposing sanctions. And then you note that China and Russia have repeatedly blocked the UN Security Council from taking action. Are you saying, and is the President taking the position, he would not act if it was in our interest to do so if the UN Security Council did not agree?
When it comes to the kind of military action where we want to build a coalition and work with our international partners, then obviously we would like to have some kind of legal basis on which to do it, as we did in Libya.
Now, some sort of legal basis. We worried about international legal basis, but nobody worried about the fundamental constitutional legal basis that this Congress has over war. We were not asked, stunningly, in direct violation of the War Powers Act, whether or not you believe it's constitution. It certainly didn't comply with it. We spent our time worrying about the UN, the Arab League, NATO, and too little time, in my opinion, worrying about the elected representatives of the United States. Do you think that you can act without Congress and initiate a no-fly zone in Syria without congressional approval?
You know, again, our goal would be to seek international permission, and we would come to the Congress and inform you and determine how best to approach this, whether or not we would want to get permission from the Congress. I think those are issues we would have to discuss as we decide what to do here.
Well, I'm almost breathless about that, because what I heard you say is we're going to seek international approval, and then we'll come and tell the Congress what we might do, and we might seek congressional approval.
No, well,
I want to just say to you, that's a big dish. Wouldn't you agree? You've served in the Congress.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree that that's would be pretty breathtaking to the average American? So would you like to clarify that?
But I've also served with Republican presidents and Democratic presidents who has always reserved the right to defend this country if necessary.
But before we do this, you would seek permission of the international authorities.
If we're working with an international coalition and we're working with NATO, we would want to be able to get appropriate permissions in order to be able to do that. That's something that all of these countries would want to have some kind of legal basis on which to act.
What legal basis are you looking for? What entity?
Well, obviously, if NATO made the decision to go in, that would be one. If we developed an international coalition beyond NATO, then obviously some kind of UN security resolution would be the basis for that.
Coalition of, so you're saying NATO would give you a legal basis, and an ad hoc coalition of nations would provide a legal basis?
If we were able to put together a coalition and were able to move together, then obviously we would seek whatever legal basis we would need in order to make that justified. I mean, we can't just pull them all together in a combat operation without getting the legal basis on which to act.
Who are you asking for the legal basis from?
If it's obviously, if the UN passed a security resolution, as it did in Libya, we would do that. If NATO came together, as we did in Bosnia, we would rely on that. So, we have options here if we want to build the kind of international approach to dealing with the situation.
Well, I'm for all for having an international support, but I'm really baffled by the idea that somehow an international assembly provides a legal basis for the United States military to be deployed in combat. I don't believe it's close to being correct. They can provide no legal authority. The only legal authority that's required to deploy the United States military is the Congress and the President and the law and the Constitution.
Let me just for the record be clear again, Senator, so there's no misunderstanding. When it comes to the national defense of this country, the President of the United States has the authority under the Constitution to act to defend this country, and we will. If it comes to an operation where we're trying to build a coalition of nations to work together to go in and operate as we did in Libya or Bosnia, for that matter, Afghanistan, we want to do it with permission.
Okay, well, the thing that really got me there was he never ever admitted that he did have to consult with Congress before going to war, and in fact at the end he emphasized when he was asked about how does he justify Libya, he said the president has the right and the duty to defend our country. How on earth is Libya defending our country? Oh, it's just amazing. I've got another video here that's probably going to make my YouTube upload be blocked. But this is a Russia Today. Russia Today is a wonderful news service. You can imagine that they have certain bias like American news might have when they report Russian news. But for the most part, everything they say is really true. And the only thing that's bad about it is that it embarrasses our power structure. This is let's see, this one's only a 2-minute clip. Let me see here, if I got this right. Okay, we'll go ahead and play this. Go ahead and switch over.
The law that many fear spells the end of American democracy grants the government and the military unprecedented powers to detain U.S. citizens indefinitely without trial. All this is happening against the backdrop of ramped-up anti-Iranian rhetoric from Washington. Film director Sean Stone, who recently made headlines for publicly embracing Islam, has told us here at RT the timing is no coincidence.
My ultimate point is to prevent or stop what I think is we are walking into World War III at the moment, between Syria being destabilized and Iran on its border being threatened by Israel and America. To me, we're in a very dangerous time, and we don't recognize what the consequences will be not only regionally, but to the world. What's happening is we are now in a state of martial law and war globally. NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that Obama has called for and signed, stipulates that even American citizens can now be targeted by the military, picked up, and imprisoned indefinitely without civilian trial, thus throwing out